The moment she said, "I'm fine," something inside me twisted because her eyes told a completely different story. And for the first time in my life, I realized how terrifying it is when someone you love starts slipping away while pretending everything is okay. I still replay that moment in my head, her forced smile, her trembling hands, the way her voice cracked just enough for me to notice, and I keep asking myself whether I should have pushed harder, whether I should have done something sooner. So I'm coming here to ask you, was I wrong for what I did next? Would you have done the same thing? Or would you have just walked away and hoped she'd eventually open up on her own? I asked because what happened after that moment changed everything about the way I see the people around me, the way I trust them, and even the way I trust myself. Because sometimes the biggest lies are hidden behind the smallest, simplest words. Hi. Guess I need to start from the beginning if any of this is going to make sense. The woman I'm talking about is my younger sister Anna. She's 2 years younger than me, but for most of our lives she felt like the older sibling. She had this unbelievable emotional strength that I've always envied, this ability to handle chaos with a level of calm that I could never imitate. Growing up, she was the one who talked our parents down from arguments, who soothed our stressed-out mother when money got tight, who made me laugh when I was anxious before exams. Even as adults, she became the person everyone leaned on. Our family had this unspoken belief: Anna's fine. She always figures it out, and honestly, she did, every time. Or at least that's what we all thought. Anna and I lived in the same city but in different apartments. I worked in a corporate office doing marketing, nothing exciting. She worked as a nurse at a hospital, which already said a lot about her personality. Caring was in her nature. She wasn't just good at her job. She genuinely loved helping people. But anyone who's been close to a nurse knows how emotionally draining that job is, how much of their own well-being they sacrifice for strangers, how much trauma they swallow quietly without ever admitting to the people who care about them. And Anna was no exception. She carried everyone else's pain on her shoulders, but she never showed it. Not once. Everything started to change about a year ago. At first, it was small things, barely noticeable to anyone except me. She started canceling hangouts, saying she was tired after work. She always looked exhausted, like she wasn't sleeping enough. When I asked if everything was okay, she brushed it off with her usual smile, the one she'd perfected over the years. "I'm fine," she'd say every time. And I believed her at first because that's who she was, the person who never broke. But then she started forgetting things. Important things. She missed Mom's birthday dinner, something she had never done in her entire life. She stopped replying to texts for days at a time. She even showed up late to my birthday, not that I cared about the birthday part, but the fact that she apologized without meeting my eyes. That scared me. Then there was this one moment at a family gathering that should have been my wake-up call, but I brushed it off because I didn't want to overthink it. She was washing dishes in the kitchen, and I came up behind her just to ask if she needed help. She jumped so violently that the glass in her hand slipped and shattered on the floor. She just stared at it like she didn't understand how it broke. Her breathing changed fast and shallow, and her eyes got shiny like she was holding back tears. But she forced herself to laugh, forced herself to say she was just tired, forced herself to look calm. I saw through it. But I didn't push. I told myself she'd talk when she wanted to. A few weeks later, our mom called me in a panic. "Call your sister," she said. "Please, she's not answering me." It wasn't unusual for Anna to be busy, but something about Mom's voice made my chest tighten, so I called. No answer. I texted her. Nothing. I tried again. Still nothing. By the 5th attempt, I was already grabbing my car keys. When I got to her apartment, the first thing I noticed was that the lights inside were off even though her car was parked outside. I knocked. No response. I knocked harder. Still nothing. Panic doesn't come gradually. It drops on you all at once like a bucket of ice water. Every worst-case scenario hit me at the same time. I rang the doorbell. Nothing. I was 2 seconds away from kicking the door down when I heard footsteps on the other side. The door opened, and there she was, my sister, standing like she had forgotten how to hold herself upright. Her hair was messy, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes swollen and red. The apartment behind her was dark except for a dim lamp in the corner. And she said it again, those 2 words that had become her emotional shield. I'm fine. Except this time her voice trembled, and her eyes were glossy, and for the first time ever she looked breakable, not tired, not overwhelmed, breakable, like one word would completely shatter her. I stepped inside anyway. She didn't stop me. The smell hit me first, like she hadn't opened the windows in days. Her sink was full of dishes. Clothes were scattered on the sofa. Her usually spotless place looked like she'd stopped tearing entirely. She sat down on the couch like her legs couldn't hold her up anymore. When I sat beside her, she looked at me with this painful mixture of fear and exhaustion. That's when she said it again, softer this time. I'm fine. And I couldn't take it anymore. What's going on? I asked. Tell me the truth. She didn't answer. She stared at her hands, twisting her fingers together. And then, finally, she broke, not loudly, not dramatically. She just crumbled. Tears started dripping onto her lap, and she didn't even try to wipe them away. She whispered, I don't know what's wrong with me. And hearing that from her, the strongest person I knew, felt like someone punched me in the stomach. It took a while for her to open up completely. At first, she only said she was tired. Then she said she couldn't sleep. Then she said she couldn't stop crying. Then she said she felt like she was failing at work, like she could never catch up, like she was constantly scared of making a mistake that would cost someone's life. She said she felt numb around people she loved, guilty for pulling away, terrified of feeling nothing, but even more terrified of feeling everything at once. She said she didn't want anyone to worry about her, so she kept pretending everything was okay. And when she finally said, I feel alone all the time, I felt something inside me crack. We talked for hours. She cried. I listened. I tried not to cry because I wanted to be the strong one for once. When she fell asleep on the couch from exhaustion, I covered her with a blanket and sat beside her for the rest of the night. I didn't leave until morning. Over the next few weeks, I checked on her constantly. Sometimes she let me in. Sometimes she didn't, but I could still tell. Something wasn't right. Her smile never reached her eyes. Her voice stayed quiet, fragile. She started skipping work. She stopped answering friends. She barely left the house unless I forced her to. And the worst part? Every time someone asked her how she was doing, she gave the same answer, I'm fine. And I could see her slipping deeper and deeper behind those 2 words. Then came the night that changed everything, the night I finally made a choice I'm still unsure about. Anna had skipped work again, and her supervisor called me since I was her emergency contact. He said she hadn't picked up any of the hospital's calls. He sounded worried, which made me even more scared. I drove to her apartment immediately. This time she answered the door quickly, but something about her was different. Her eyes looked empty, not sad, not tired, empty, like she wasn't even really there. She tried to say, I'm fine, but her voice cracked so badly that she didn't finish the sentence. That's when I decided I wasn't leaving her alone anymore. Before I continue, before I tell you what I did next, I want you to think about something. Imagine someone you love is drowning silently, refusing to ask for help, refusing to admit something is wrong. Imagine they keep pushing you away while falling apart right in front of you. What would you do? Would you respect their boundaries? Or would you step in, even if they didn't want you to? Because that's the choice I had to make. And before I tell you what I did, I want you to pause for a second and comment below. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Asterisk. Now here's what happened. I told Anna we were going to the hospital. Not for physical illness, but because she needed someone to evaluate her mental state. She refused immediately. She said she was just tired. She said she didn't want to be one of those people. She said she wasn't crazy. She begged me not to take her. She cried. She told me she just needed sleep. But she didn't look like someone who needed sleep. She looked like someone who needed help. Asterisk. She tried to push past me. I blocked her. She yelled. I'd never seen her angry before, but she was furious because she felt out of control, because she felt exposed, because she wasn't used to needing help. But I didn't budge. I told her I wasn't leaving until she came with me. I told her I would carry her if I had to. I told her I loved her too much to let her drown quietly. Asterisk. Eventually, she stopped fighting. She didn't agree, not really. She just collapsed into my arms and whispered, I don't want to feel like this anymore. That was enough. Asterisk. At the hospital, the doctor spoke with her privately, but they asked me to stay nearby. After an hour, the doctor came out and told me she was suffering from severe burnout, major depressive symptoms, anxiety attacks, and emotional exhaustion from her job. She'd been holding everything inside for months, maybe longer. She'd been breaking silently, smiling for everyone while falling apart alone. The doctor said we brought her in at the right time. Asterisk. Anna stayed in a mental health treatment program for several weeks. During that time, I visited her almost every day. She apologized over and over for causing worry, and every time I told her to stop apologizing. It took a while, but she slowly started opening up again. Eventually, she admitted she didn't even know how close she'd been to a dangerous point. She admitted she'd been scared to ask for help because she didn't want people to see her as weak. She admitted she'd been wearing her smile like armor for so long she didn't know how to take it off. Asterisk. Months later, she's doing better. Not magically healed, not perfect, just better. She started therapy. She reduced her work hours. She talks more now, even if it's uncomfortable for her. She's learning to express when she's struggling instead of burying it. And every time she says, I'm fine, I look into her eyes to make sure it's actually true. Asterisk. But sometimes I still wonder, was I wrong for forcing her to get help? Did I cross a line by pushing her when she begged me not to? She says she's grateful now, but part of me feels guilty, like I betrayed her trust. That's why I'm sharing this. I want to know what you think. Asterisk. At the end of the day, I learned something I wish I'd learned earlier. The people who look the strongest are often the ones breaking silently. The people who say, I'm fine, the fastest are the ones who need help the most. And the people who spend their lives caring for others rarely know how to ask for care themselves. Asterisk. If you were on my side in this story, like this video. If you want more emotional, real-life stories like this, make sure to subscribe. And please share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have done what I did? Or would you have handled it differently? Thank you for listening to my story. I'll see you all in the next one.